Big Ben, he names the most underrated receivers that he's ever played with. I love stories like this because it gives you some real insight to what's really going on with the team and the locker room. Let's jump into the article. Ben Roethlisberger names most underrated receivers he's played with. Former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger played with quite a few high-profile wide receivers during his career. Hines Ward headlines the list. Antonio Brown was on another level before the issues began, and we all remember his incredible Super Bowl winning throw to San Antonio Holmes. But who would Roethlisberger count among his most underrated receivers during his career? Two names came to his mind when he was asked that question on Tuesday's episode of Football and with Ben Roethlisberger. I'm going to feel bad because the show's going to be over. I'm going to be like, oh, I should have said so-and-so, said Roethlisberger. I would probably say, just off the top of my head, I thought Jericho Cotchery was... I didn't get to play with him for long enough. I wish I could have played with him a lot longer. I thought he was just a really good teammate, really good receiver, great slot guy, really brought a lot to our team. And then one of the first ones that came to my head, and maybe people will disagree with me because maybe they'll be like, he got a lot of credit, but maybe that makes me feel like he should have gotten even more, was Mike Wallace. He could just flat out run, but he could do more than just run fast. He was such a weapon. He affected defenses even when he wasn't catching passes. There was always like, man, we got to know where that guy is. Safeties always had to be looking, always had to be deep. Maybe that's not a good one, but I would say Mike was a very good receiver and maybe, in my opinion, didn't get the credit that he deserved. Jericho Cotchery was also excellent on the Jets when the Jets were absolutely horrible, and he was a good teammate even on the Jets and had a great attitude and brought it every week. He was a very seasoned route runner. He kind of reminds me of Brian Hartline from the Miami Dolphins back in the day. Their play was very similar, so I'm not surprised by that at all. And he was definitely a Steeler. His attitude definitely matched the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a good fit, Jericho Cotchery. And Mike Wallace, talk about the good old days. I mean, that was a scary receiving core for the Steelers. I remember when you saw Mike Wallace on the field, the size of him, you know, he looked like Plexico Burress out there, but just with elite speed, and he would blow the top off of defenses. Those were the good old days. And the Pittsburgh Steeler curse, it's a curse. When players get greedy like Le'Veon Bell and Mike Wallace, and they just want such ridiculous amounts of money, their careers never work out. They go to another team and they're out of the league within 2 years, and that's what seemed to happen to Mike Wallace. I mean, I don't know if he got injured. I don't know his whole story, but I know that once he left the Steelers, it was all downhill. Sometimes you're better off taking a little bit less money, and you see this with Steelers players time and time again. You're better off taking a little bit less money. They know how to use you. The Steelers know how to use you, and you're a piece to the puzzle that they appreciate. It's not like they're not paying you a king's ransom. You're just being greedy. So that's a Steelers curse. Every player that's super greedy, when the Steelers offer them a fair contract and they're like, no, we want more money. If you go down the list, it didn't work out for them. Again, I don't know if Mike Wallace was injured, but I know once he left the Steelers, that was not the same Mike Wallace. Fittipaldo writes, would not surprise me one bit if Steelers have first losing season under Mike Tomlin in 2025. Well, if Russell Wilson's your quarterback, you're definitely having a losing season. The Pittsburgh Steelers were supposed to finish below 500 a number of times in recent years. Even after starting a season 2-6, Mike Tomlin has managed to crawl out of the basement. His consecutive non-losing season streak grows, but more impressive the longer it lasts, and less so the longer his postseason drought does. But the 2025 season could be the year Tomlin and the Steelers finally bottom out. They made a go of it with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last year, and it didn't work out. In fact, the bottom had dropped out by the end of the season, and yet it seems their best option for this upcoming season is to try to do it again with one or the other. Ray Fittipaldo isn't impressed, nor is he optimistic about their immediate future. It would not surprise me one bit if the Steelers finish the 2025 season with a losing record. He wrote in a recent chat session for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, "This team is in the middle of a rebuild, even though the front office will never call it that." I mean, he's absolutely right. I don't understand how we're still having the conversation that Russell Wilson's going to be brought back. And the right people in the building are behind him to bring him back to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, if the other teams that the Steelers play even improve this much, the Steelers have no chance of beating the Jets and all the bad teams in the league, the Raiders and the Giants. Look who they beat. Look who the Steelers beat the first half of the year. Some of the worst teams in the league. Now, I don't want to take away from their wins because it's still the NFL with NFL players and they're all great players. But let's be serious here. It's only going to get worse bringing Russell Wilson back. This is a great article by Clayton Eckert. I say this every week, week in, week out. Where the hell has Blitzburgh gone? Mixing up the blitzes, mixing up the coverages, disguising it, bringing guys to pressure the quarterback that you wouldn't expect. It's not Blitzburgh. It hasn't been Blitzburgh for a long time. Got 2 outside rushers, line them up, and let them pass rush. That's not Blitzburgh. It's a rotating puzzle of guys coming in directions that you're not expecting. Guys dropping certain ways and certain... Can you imagine, for instance, you're expecting TJ Watt to blitz all the time. Rush the passer all the time. What if he dropped back to the middle of the field or went out to the flat and you brought Alex Highsmith from the other side of the field and blitzed the corner? It's confusing. That's Blitzburgh football. It's a revolving puzzle of pieces that create confusion for an offense. You can have the most basic quarterback at this point play the Steelers, and he can figure out the Steelers' defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers Blitzburgh mantra and history is well documented, but has unfortunately been absent in recent years. Here's how the Steelers have stacked up league-wide in sacks since 2017. Well, they led the league in sacks 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and then you had heavy drop-offs in 22, 23, and 24. As you can see, Pittsburgh's defense was comfortably above 50 sacks consistently, but has fallen short of that ideal mark the last 3 seasons. 2017, first in sacks, 56. 2018, 52 sacks, tied for first. 2019, 54 sacks, first. 2020, 56 sacks, first in the league. 2021, 55 sacks, first in the league. 2022, 40 sacks, tied 14th. 2023, 47 sacks, tied 11th. And 2024, 40 sacks, tied 16th. I mean, yeah, that's definitely an issue. When you look at how many sacks TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith have, they're doing their job. So it's not like they're not getting pressure, but a lot of those other sacks, when you mix up the defense and corners are coming and safeties are coming and you get more pressure, you get more sacks every week. If you do the same thing week in and week out and expect different results, it's insanity. It's almost as if when the Steelers lost Mike Hilton to free agency to the Bengals, they just totally abandoned Blitzburgh and it was over. We all remember the corner blitz that he used to do, and he was really good at it. He was great at it. And from that moment that he left, it's just like Tomlin just said, the defense washed their hands and said, no more special blitz packages. We're just going to line up and rush the passer. The Steelers have had 5 straight seasons with 50-plus sacks from 2017 to 2021, tops in the league each year. That has dipped close to the league average since the rest of the NFL has seen a rise in sack production. Pittsburgh recently tied for its lowest sack numbers in the span with its 2022 output when the team failed to make the playoffs. Luckily, that wasn't the case this season, but brings up the dreaded playoff drought since 2016, with better sack production being part of the righting and wrong. The first name in any Steelers conversation involving sacks is star edge rusher TJ Watt. As you might have guessed, the years he has been most productive aligns with the Pittsburgh's best marks. This includes leading the league in sacks in 2020, 2021, along with winning the NFL Defensive Player of the Year award in 2023. In 2024, he arguably got the most attention of any NFL pass rusher, and the opposition limited him to 11.5 sacks. That's the lowest number of his career, excluding his rookie year and 2022, when he missed substantial time to injury, while also tied his longest sack drought on the last 3 regular season games of 2024, the only time that's occurred in the last 5 years. It's well documented that Watt prefers to rush from the left side. In 2024, 982 of his snaps on the edge came from the left, with a huge disparity of just 11 coming off the right edge. That simply can't happen anymore with the season we just witnessed, and Watt has acknowledged he needs to be more open to moving around to maximize his impact. That would be huge in striking more fear into opposing quarterbacks. The Steelers scheming more ways for Watt to wreck games more consistently. We, of course, know that football is the ultimate team sport, and the team production wasn't up to snuff overall either. 2024 sacks, TJ Watt had 11.5. Cam Hayward had 8. That's unbelievable. Alex Highsmith only had 6. Nick Herbig, 5.5. Preston Smith, 2. Larry Ogunjobi, 1.5. Patrick Queen, 1. Keanu Benton, 1. And Landon Roberts, 1 sack. Dean Lowry, 1 sack. Montrevious Adams, 1 sack. Beanie Bishop Jr. only had a half a sack. Part of Hayward's impressive Pro Bowl season that thankfully defied Father Time was being second in sacks for Pittsburgh. Highsmith landed 3rd while playing just 11 games and will hopefully have a healthy 2025 en route to his best season yet. The depth at edge was thankfully stronger than years past, namely Herbig continues to cash in on his opportunities. I mean, Cam Hayward is a first ballot Hall of Famer. For you to have, he's going to have over 100 sacks at the nose tackle position, and it's unreal, along with all his tackles and batted down balls. He's a phenomenal player. And this whole thing, I love TJ Watt, but it's not up to TJ Watt where he wants to rush from. It's up to Mike Tomlin. He makes the decisions. I don't want to hear, well, TJ Watt doesn't like it. Well, too bad. That's part of being a coach. Oh, well, TJ doesn't like it, so we're going to let him just do what he wants. That's not how this works. It's called being a leader. Because TJ Watt, if he has 11.5 sacks and he's lined up in the same spot week in and week out, if you move him around, that number goes to 22, 23. There's no doubt in my mind. We saw it time and time again this year. He gets hit by the tackle. The backer tight end is lined up next to the quarterback to chip him. Sometimes even a guard swings out. He's getting double and triple teamed from the left side. So I'm tired of hearing TJ. He already knows. It's not like I'm telling him something he doesn't know. You have to work on the left side, the right side, being at nose guard, wherever. You got to work on all your pass rush moves. You can't just be one-dimensional. You're hurting the team. James Harrison explains his 2017 exit from the Steelers, signing with the Patriots. Oh, I hated it seeing him in a Patriots uniform. Well, I only hated it seeing him in a Bengals uniform even more. Couldn't stand seeing that at all. Late in the 2017 season, after investing heavily in the outside linebacker position in back-to-back years, with the selection of Bud Dupree and TJ Watt, the Pittsburgh Steelers found themselves in a tough situation with one of the all-time greats in franchise history in James Harrison. Harrison was losing playing time to the young outside linebackers and was seemingly being viewed as an insurance policy behind the two. Then the unthinkable happened. The Steelers released Harrison, and the standout linebacker went on to sign with the hated rival New England Patriots. There were reports of Harrison falling asleep in meetings, not staying for games when he was active, not staying for games when he was inactive, and generally creating headaches within the facility over playing time and his usage. But now, all these years later, Harrison continues to try and straighten things out through the media. Appearing on the Pivot podcast with former Steelers safety and teammate Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowden. Let's not forget racist Ryan Clark, fragile Fred Taylor, and Channing the Swinger Crowder. Harrison recalled what happened late in his tenure with the Steelers and why he signed with the Patriots. For Harrison, all he wanted was for head coach Mike Tomlin to be 100% honest with him when it came to the plan for him instead of dragging things along. He also added that he felt he was better, more productive player than Watt and Dupree at the time. I'm going back and forth, just back and forth, and I'm like, you know what? I want to play. Like, you can say, oh, TJ and Bud were better than me. They beat me out or whatever, but I didn't even practice in training camp. So, I mean, at that point in time, do I believe both of them were better than me? No. Harrison said of the decision to sign with the Patriots and what went into it. While he was sitting in New England, Harrison was debating signing with the Patriots or headed back to Pittsburgh for the 2017 season. Ultimately, after sitting on the bench for much of the season behind Watt and Dupree, Harrison decided he wanted to play, and the Patriots were going to offer that opportunity. Once he signed with the Patriots, Harrison made an impact with 2 sacks in his first game, both of them coming late in the game. Reports later surfaced that Harrison was sleeping in meetings and that players within the locker room were losing respect for him the way he was conducting himself. Harrison brushed all that off at the time, but years later, all came down to Harrison wanting head coach Mike Tomlin to be honest with him regarding the plan, whether he's going to play or if the plan was to sit him as an insurance policy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm signing. I don't even need to wait for him to come back because me going back there, I'm going to be back in the same position, mad that I'm just sitting there. When I told you week 1 at Cleveland, hey, I see what y'all doing. Y'all want to play your younger players. Just release me. Let me go so I could go play out this year somewhere else. Whatever. No. We're good. We got a plan for you. We got a plan. Like, you ain't got a plan, Harrison said of the way Steelers handled things regarding his usage defensively. Your plan is just to hold me here just in case something happens that you got the backup. But then when the numbers hit and you're like, oh, we're good, then you end up releasing me anyway. I understand the business of it, but my thing is to be 100% with you is what I need. Honesty, dude. I don't care if it's like, he says, you asked the tough question, I'm going to give you a tough answer. I've been asking tough questions. I was asking tough questions then, but I wasn't getting the tough answers. Agree with what James Harrison is saying right now at all. How do you think Nick Herbig feels behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith? He's in the prime of his career. He's the 3rd pass rusher. At that point, James, you're 36, 37 years old. And here's my problem with James Harrison. He's always bashing the Steelers, constantly. The same team, you even admitted your own words. The first 3 or 4 years when they gave you a workout, you didn't know the playbook. And you didn't make the team so you knew the playbook. And they showed patience with you. And they brought you back. And they gave you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And then when it's your turn to do it the Steeler way, you turn around and you take a dump in the organization's face and talk crap about them all the time. They had a plan for you, James. You just weren't listening. You can't just have 2 pass rushers on a team. Somebody gets hurt, somebody needs a break. You come in, you get a sack. That's what they needed you to do. I love James Harrison's play, but I'm not a fan of his attitude at all. With the Steelers organization, we're constantly dumping on the Steelers. Constantly. You wonder why they didn't. You put feelers out there to see if they wanted you to be a coach. Why do you think you got no response back? Do you think they forget that? Do you think that they don't hear the things that you say about the organization? And I'm not just talking about criticizing Tomlin. You're allowed to criticize Tomlin. Minka Fitzpatrick's even said, we need to make better use of our time during practice. James Harrison said, Mike Tomlin's not the most organized guy. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is when you bash the Rooneys, the organization that has paid you millions of dollars and given you an opportunity of a lifetime. They had a plan for you, James, and you just weren't listening. You were going to be a punk, fall asleep in meetings, be disrespectful to coaches, and soon as they could get another guy to take your place, they got rid of you. You're like, oh, as soon as the numbers were good, no, James. Yeah, well, technically, yeah. That's what they needed to do. They weren't going to get another guy if you just knew how to act right and be respectful. They would have kept you and let you play that role. It's a team game, James. So as soon as they got a guy that could replace, they got rid of you. You know why? Not because of your play, because of your attitude.